How dating men with the mother wound affects your femininity. Hello, my name is Chengi, and you, my precious one, of course, are and forever will be my world. Welcome to the Black Swan Relationship Academy. I am your CEO, founder of the Black Swan Relationship Academy, your dating and relationship expert, big sis, auntie, mummy, whatever you need me to be to help you through your dating and relationship situations. I am here and my team are here to help you ladies present as high value, high status and high worth women that attract only high value masculine men and good quality men. If that sounds like you are on the right channel. Thank you so much for your support. I hope that you are enjoying all of the videos that are coming at you absolutely every day. You will catch me here every Sunday, where we're going to be doing some deep inner work, right? I'm going to be doing some videos that will give you some deep inner work, and I'm going to leave my coaches to give you some strategy and to really perfect you in particular areas in your dating and relationship world. So they will be teaching you all of my strategies, and they will be coming through and giving you their own advice from their own experience and with a lot of their own expertise. And so I love that you're very, very supportive. So do share, and join us in Swan City during the 30-day challenge that is blowing up in Swan City. Okie dokie. Moving forward, we're going to discuss a very interesting subject, something that I touched on and I actually hoped to veer away from the moment that I was done with it. And this is the issue of the mother wound. And I definitely hope that the videos that I have done so far have really helped you ladies heal. I'm loving the testimonials. I'm loving the DMs of how you have really found a way to heal from a lot of pain. And I know that this series is going to really eventually become really powerful to women all over the world, because this is something that we need to discuss. Now, if you have not seen any of those videos, I suggest that you go and watch these videos, because they're going to really help you understand some of the concepts that I'm not going to touch in this video. This video is really about what to expect if we are dealing with men who have the mother wound. And we're going to talk about the different types of mother wounds that some of the men and the majority of men actually have. These are mother wounds that you are definitely going to stumble on if you are dating a man in the 21st century. Are these the only wounds? No, but they're definitely one of some of the major wounds that you will definitely encounter. And we need to really know when to recognize it and how to position ourselves and what to do. I've already done a video on this channel, Are You Dating a Wounded Masculine Man? And this would fall into the category of some of his wounds. We will then go ahead and talk about dating a man with a father wound. And often it's both, but they manifest differently. And if you can see, okay, this is the father wound, this is the mother wound, and learn as much as you can to navigate. Now, obviously, if he has a lot of baggage, then we sometimes just have to make the unfortunate decision of walking away. But there are some things in life we have to accept, that we're not going to meet a perfect person. We're not going to meet a completely healed person, even if they have already embarked on a healing journey. I always say to my clients, I always say to you Black Swans, that we are healing. We're healed, healing to be healed. It's a continual process that updates itself every single day. And so to anticipate or expect that you're going to meet a man that is completely healed and completely whole is not true. There will be some deep wounds that maybe have not been brought out. And there are some wounds and manifestations and triggers that happen only in the relationship. Most people will never show up, and you will never really know their triggers until they're in a relationship. So we can't keep tossing men back into the river because he's wounded. So I want to give us some ways that we can help and assist our partner as we heal ourselves, and see if these things and being able to recognize these things and being able to navigate around these things is really going to help you. This is probably going to be quite a long video, but I think you're used to that. If I only see you once a week, then I want to be able to really give you the best content that I can. Okie dokie, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. I want to talk to you about mother wounds. These are not the only mother wounds that a man is going to have. He may have a combination, he may have one, he may have two, and there will be more. But what we want to do here is really just be able to zero in, and like I said, these are definitely some of the common ones. So we're going to start off with the brutal mother. This is the boy whose mother was brutal. Okay, she beat him, she whipped him, she was so excessive in her criticism of him. So she was either emotionally, mentally, physically brutal. Like, she is the woman who perhaps, you know, depending on the relationship with the father of the son, it, you know, perhaps is taking that out on her son or her relationship with her own father. Because what we do, unfortunately, when we have wounds is we act out some of these relationships in reverse. We become the aggressor, and we put upon those who are vulnerable. And so if a man had a brutal mother. Now I know a friend of mine whose mother would beat him so hard that he would bleed, and one day her partner had to come and say, "What are you doing?" She had so much trauma around her own father wound, and she had a lot of trauma around his father, and he is an identical copy of his dad, and his dad had abandoned her when she was pregnant. And so she would, without knowing it, punish her son for literally what his father did. And I know this might sound awful, but a lot of us women do that to our sons. We make them pay for what their fathers did. And the thing with a brutalized boy who then becomes a man has an enslavement energy. He's very much the man who the manosphere would call the simp. This is the guy who must please the woman. He must do whatever it takes to please her, because his survival from his mother depended on him being able to keep her in a good mood. This is a highly traumatized man who has adapted himself to believe that every woman is like mom. The truth of the matter is, every man dates his mother or seeks to date his mother, and the things that he resents about her are also the things that he loves about you. About the things he loves about her often are the things that he seeks in you, and vice versa. And so if his first experience of the most loving woman was brutal, then he will obviously see women as brutal. Now, he may cognitively understand, intellectually, academically, or socially understand that not all women are brutal. His blueprint for the woman that he's going to go for is going to be often somebody who's quite brutal. So you, not being a brutal woman, you meet this man. What he's going to do is going to show up very much as one who panders. You can never do anything wrong. Whatever you like, whatever you need, whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that while he is pandering to your every need, that he is actually developing a true, authentic connection. Often it is really just his survival mode, but inside he still carries the powerlessness and the resentment that he has for his abuser. So what you will find is that your relationship will bring, it will have moments where you will be drawn into this amazing, highly, generous, a man who wants to serve at every possible level, show up for you in every way you can imagine. You will really feel love bombed, but this is not necessarily the same as narcissistic love bombing. This is a love bombing that makes you feel like he has no value within himself. The kind of guy that you think, I don't feel like he has value. If I say, the sky is orange, he's gonna say, yeah, if you say so, honey, or I think it's orange too, and that is not authentic. But it's how he has adapted is to appease and to soothe the abuser. And so that is an adaptation and a way that he will follow through and seek to be in a relationship with you. Unfortunately, the day will come when his cup runs high and he is reading and he explodes. And you will be surprised because you'll think, we've been happy, we've been good, you've been a good man, I've been a good woman to you. And then one day, all of a sudden, you are a horrible person, you are a gold digger, you are a terrible, terrible human being. And all the time that he has been with you, he's been collecting the courage, the data in order to explode. This is the guy who you just have a wonderful time with him. It's just so great. And then you have this massive explosion. He just goes off. And usually this is how they sabotage that relationship. And then of course, he goes back to begging. And if you really are that deeply connected to him, you might decide to give him a second chance. But this is usually the manifestation of a man who was brutalized. He's going to show up very much as a servant, show up very much as a giver. He's going to agree with everything that you say. And often we just find these guys unattractive for the most part. Very rarely do we as feminine women find a man that is always agreeable, always thinks what we say is right, thinks the moon and the sun shines out of our behind. We don't often find this man attractive. So often if he does find somebody, he is going to definitely be more anxious attachment, more, and he is still carrying trauma. Can you make it work with a brutalized man? In truth, you would really need to, because he's so agreeable, use that power to insist that he goes for therapy or counseling, and just maybe do it together and really just work through some of these deep wounds. Now, whether it was psychological, emotional, or physical, this man is going to take it out on you at some point. So this is really important, ladies, why when we're doing our vetting, we really understand the mother-son story that the man we're dating has. What is really the story behind the mother-son connection? Because whatever story you can see and pick up is going to be the story of your relationship. It's a very important principle and something that we need to watch out for and really see, have I healed myself? Am I in a good place to be able to support him? And is he conscious and aware? And many men simply are not. But you could insist that if this relationship is going to go forward, that you really require him to really look at some of his wounds. And most of the time, for the sake of compliance, they tend to want to do that. So if you're falling in love with this guy, this is the best way forward. Then we have the wife mother. The wife mother is the woman who develops at every stage. Sigmund Freud theorized the Oedipus, I think is Oedipus complex. I hope I pronounced it properly. And that's really a stage in a boy's life where he builds a sexual attraction to his mother and often begins to be conflicted with the presence of another male. And apparently this begins to change as he builds his attachment to the male figure, to the male alpha. So eventually he overcomes this desire for his mother and joins up with and begins to be allied to his father as he grows older. And so that kind of tapers that whole situation. Now, obviously this is a theory. I don't know how much of it I truly know or believe, but again, it is out there and it doesn't seem very, very far from the truth, because at the end of the day, many of us are operating on a very animalistic instinct. And so having said that, I have observed definitely my practice and with some of the men that I've dated, that the absence of a father means that that whole situation is not leveraged. So he develops this feeling. And because often the mother decides not to date, because the mother decides not to go out and meet new men and get to know somebody new, mom decides that she wants to focus on raising her children. And so she, without her being conscious most of the time, begins to groom her son into a pseudo husband. This is often the biggest manifestation of a wife mother, is the mama's boy. This is the guy who puts mama first. Mama makes all the decisions. Mama has to approve, or else he will not date this woman. Mom is pretty much his wife and you are the mistress, and you're gonna definitely feel that way. And mom will be very happy to let you know that she comes first and you come last in everything that he does. And it's a very, very mama's boy relationship, and I talk about this in my video, are you dating a mama's boy, right? So I go more into that, but this is often how it manifests. When you have that kind of bond, really it's a very difficult relationship to navigate, and I talk about that in that video. So do watch the video about dating a mama's boy, because then you will know what to do if you happen to be in that situation and the complexity of that situation. So I'm just gonna move on from there. Then we have the emotionally unavailable mother. We discussed that as well, but this is a woman who says, boys don't cry, be tough, be strong, just man up, right? Who does not allow her son to find rest in her, because the boy child finds his comfort with the femininity by relying on the mother's femininity. And so if mom makes it wrong for him to be emotional and express his emotions in a very human way, and the problem that we have is that men were socialized for so many years that they're not quite human. Now we want men that have emotional mastery, want men that when they have expressed their emotions, they get it together and they find a solution, which is the masculine way. But we still need to allow that process to unfold, and many men would not have been given an opportunity to express themselves, and mom requires him to be strong at all times. And so that distance and that disconnect creates very much a man, when you're in a relationship with him, who finds it extremely difficult to open up and share and be intimate with you and really tell you what is going on. You literally have to read his body language half the time, because this man is so afraid to come across as weak and feeble when he's not having the best of times. And sometimes it manifests in the extreme that when he does kind of fall apart, it's epic, right? And he might even resent you for being vulnerable. So this is the guy that when you're dating him, you will be like, you'll have a vulnerable moment with him. He will share every detail about what happened to him, and you'll feel this deep sense of connection. And then the next minute he's pulled away completely, and you cannot understand what is going on, because he is now punishing himself for being vulnerable with you, because he's punishing himself for showing weakness. This is something that will happen to many of you. Like we had a fantastic time. We shared for 3 hours. We watched the moon and the stars, and he told me everything about his childhood, and we just shared this precious moment. And the next thing, he wasn't answering my calls or coming back to me. This is the emotionally unavailable mother. This is how this man learns to be very detached, dismissive, avoidant, very distant, because mother was not a safe emotional space, and so women are not safe emotional spaces. And often this man has a deep longing to be loved, but doesn't know how to meet that in a healthy way. So it can then go into unhealthy ways of trying to be loved. And sometimes this manifests the player, the man that sleeps around a lot, who cannot attach emotionally to any woman. So he seeks connection through sexual encounters, because that is the only time he is naked and unashamed, where he can, be free with a woman and not feel like he has to be covered. And so he will feel like it is safer to express myself. And sometimes when you are, you know, sexually intimate with this man, you're going to feel like he really makes love to you. Like, you're not going to feel like he just is doing, you know, sport sex, like jump on, jump off. You know, when you're with him, you feel this deep sense of intimacy, this deep connection with him, because he really is somebody that makes love to you and connects to you sexually. But at the end of the day, he completely disconnects thereafter, because this is how he soothes that wound. And so if you are dealing with an emotionally unavailable man, it's so important that, of course, depending on the scale of the situation, is super important that you create a safe space for him to be himself. That means his secrets have to be safe with you. That means that you can never ever bring up something that he said to you intimately out there, you know, in an argument or a fight. That's why your daddy left you, or something ridiculous like that. You know, this is a man that you really have to handle. You have to almost buy his trust slowly but surely over time. And that means you can't be coming to him and telling him all your girl secrets, or, you know, you have to be a vault. You have to feel safe to him, and you have to really allow him to have his emotional spectrum. Obviously, if it is in any way illegal, immoral, unethical, is going to wound you in one shape or form, then it's something that you have to communicate. And you can do that by watching the How to Talk to Men So They Listen, and just follow those protocols. But it is something that you are going to have to be the kind of woman who is not loose-lipped, and the kind of woman that makes him feel safe in any emotional space. Now, we have to be careful, because sometimes anger is always a go-to for people who don't know how to manage their emotions. They tend to lash out and be angry, because that is an emotion that is more accessible, and often is not read as weak. It often feels powerful. It often feels strong. And so this is how we really need to recognize and support a man with an emotionally unavailable mom, or he will manifest as anxiously attached. He may manifest as a man who's always seeking a deeper attachment. So not dissimilar from, you know, the enslaved son, but the enslaved son is more looking for approval, whereas the emotionally unavailable son is often digging for, you know, that connection he couldn't have with mom. So he can be very needy, very clingy, very wanting your time, your energy, your space, and just wanting to be the center of your world in the way that mother was not able to provide. So emotionally unavailable is on such a massive spectrum, and if I was to try and cover the whole spectrum in this video, we might be here a while. The next one is obviously the narcissistic mother. We can't get away from that. Thank goodness they make up a very small portion of humanity, but unfortunately narcissists, one is too many, right? So God forbid you fell into the trap of a narcissistic parent, a narcissistic mother, and he happened to have one of those. This is a really terrible, because narcissistic parents actually feed off and get their rocks off the pain of their children and their infants. They actually really enjoy the suffering of their children, so they will create scenarios to literally, it's horrific, to sort of trap their children into this place, and to see them hurting. This is something that really soothes them and gives them power and a feeling of power and control. And so if the man you're dating was raised by a narcissistic parent, then either he will mirror the narcissistic parent and be highly narcissistic himself, or he will be very much codependent. He will be the one that in the relationship always wants to please you. He won't be happy unless you're happy. And at first it's gonna be like amazing, because you have this man who wants to spoil you and make all your dreams come true, but really it actually ends up becoming too much and overwhelming. And again, all of these men with all of these wounds will have an undercurrent of resentment for you. This resentment is not for you, it is really the resentment they have for mother, but you are now playing that mother role. So with these sort of wounds, be aware that there's always an undercurrent of resentment. There's always this cognitive dissonance, this adoration of you, this desire for you, but on the other hand, this disdain and this resentment of the things he was not able to say to his mother, the things he was not able to do with his mother. And often these men also manifest as quite controlling. They need to be in control. They need to take charge because often they felt powerless. They felt like, you know, they have no power here and no say here. And one of the things that Dr. Pat Allen talks about that I heard in a podcast, I'm not sure if it's her research or she was citing the research of another professional. And she speaks about the fact that when a man gets to when a boy gets to the age of 10, his mother is to respect him, has to start learning to respect him. And when that happens, it then creates a healthy dynamic between the mother and the son. But often mothers tend to not switch off the masculine energy. So when I am helping my single moms and their sons are going into teenage mode, I teach them it's time for you to turn things around and now be the one he has to cherish, and he becomes the one that you have to respect. So this is really an interesting dynamic because it really shifts the dynamic of mother and son. So I have a 15-year-old son, and when I kind of came into this research and really looked at it, I realized that my son needed to be, I needed to now respect him, respect his thoughts, respect the way he's thinking, not interrupt him when he's talking, let him finish speaking, and respect him as a man. And I found it very exciting and interesting because he just became my cherisher. He became the guy that opens doors for me and carries my heavy stuff for me and just really make sure that mom is okay. He really took on that masculine role and began to cherish me. Whereas before, when I was like, I'm the mother, what are you guys? And I was pulling those stunts, we were having more of that rebellion. So it's a dance that mother and son have to play. But if many mothers who don't know this will sort of circumvent those rules, and then as a result, the son grows up feeling deeply resentful and angry because he is not being respected as a man. And then what happens is he is going to want to make up for that deficit through the woman that he dates. She now has to be respectful. And this need for respect goes to a point where he needs to be dominant. He needs to be oppressive. He needs to call the shots. She doesn't have a word. And then we end up having this really abusive, controlling, difficult man. And it really isn't about you as much as it is about the fact that he grew up with a woman, and the one woman that he loved and adores simply failed to respect him. Therefore, every other woman on the planet is to respect him. And so if you're in a relationship with somebody like this, then you know that respect is their number one protocol. Now, if they're deeply wounded in this area, you won't be able to respect them enough. That's just bottom line. They will never feel respected enough. And if you do respect them, they still want to take more because it's not even about you. It's about the punching bag, that the retaliation to mother. And this is a very difficult one, I've got to be honest, because what I find is that it's very difficult for somebody who has this particular wound. I find with men to reverse it. He would have to really get to a place in his life where he sees and has paid a high price by losing a lot of very, 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 very valuable relationships for him to think, okay, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe there's something I need to work on, why women are always complaining about this thing. But very rarely does this man with this wound ever really come to that conclusion. Often they just go and hemorrhage relationships and eventually end up alone. However, no man is so broken that he can't fall in love, and falling in love is, in fact, insanity. So, you know, in that state of mind, it's so much easier to influence somebody. But listen to me, ladies, we cannot fall in love with somebody and then attempt to change them because it suits us to have them in that way. It simply doesn't work that way. Then we have the vulnerable mother. Some men have the vulnerable mother wound. The vulnerable mother wound is growing up with a mother who was feeble. You know, she was either, you know, a victim of his father's violence. He had to watch his father beat her because he couldn't protect her, or she was addicted, or she was in no way capable of truly leading and mothering him appropriately because she was always presenting as the weak person. This man is the man that will go and find women that are broken. He is attracted to brokenness in women. And he is the guy who wants to fix you. He is the guy who wants to fix everything that's broken. When you're having a conversation with him, you know, that needs to be fixed, that we need to fix that. We need to, you know, you shouldn't say that, you should say this. Sometimes this guy is very much into personal development, which is not a bad thing. It's a fantastic thing. They tend to be helpers, very helpful, very loving. These people end up in roles of leadership, but they have this deep need to fix, to protect. And in many ways, these are the guys that will leave a perfectly healthy woman that can love them, that is high value, that is high quality, and leave this amazing high quality woman that's emotionally healthy and end up with a woman that is dependent on drugs or, you know, broken in some way, shape or form, or needs rescuing. This is your classic rescue guy. And so what you have to be wary of is the fact that if he wants to play savior and you don't need saving most of the time, he is going to feel useless in that relationship. So if he is not too badly damaged in that way, it's perfectly fine for you to really make him useful in your life, really give him many reasons to show up and be your hero. This is not on the surface a really bad wound per se, but it does harm him more than it harms you, if that makes sense. And the only risk that you are taking is that you will probably end up losing him to a weaker woman, or a woman who's more feeble, who's more vulnerable. He's more likely to have an affair with somebody who needs him rather than a woman like yourself who is whole and growing and high value. So this is something that you would have to really kind of be aware of and make sure that you're not, you know, super Miss Independent, I don't need no man. This is not the right coupling. If this man needs to be needed, he needs to be a hero. The next is the critical mom. This is the one. The critical mom is the woman that births and creates a loser. These are the guys that don't ever really make anything of their career, never really ever make money, never really achieve anything in life. These are the ones that are on benefits, who rely on the government. These are the men who we kind of look at as losers because they grew up with a female voice in their heads telling them that they will never amount to anything, that whatever they did was not good enough, that, you know, they could do better. They just, you know, she doesn't know why she wasted her life giving birth to him. When a man has a critical parent, even if he eventually makes something of himself and decides to prove her wrong, he will always feel you have to manage him emotionally, because no matter how much he achieves, he's always going to feel like he's not good enough. He's always going to feel like he's not quite where everybody else should be. He's always going to feel like life is one big massive competition. He's going to be very competitive, and everything is a competition, and everything is you know, everything is a competition. Breathing is a competition, because he is trying to prove to mother that he is actually capable, he's able, he's everything she said he was not. Or he just surrenders to being a loser and just doesn't achieve anything with his life. And you cannot help this guy. There's no point in helping him with his CV. There's no point in trying to hook him up with a job. There's no point in trying to really help this guy, because he is really trying to live out the narrative of his mom's prophecy. So this is the very last one, and it might not seem like a mother wound at all, but this is the overly indulgent mother. This in comparison to the mothers that we have discussed, this is the seventh mom, in comparison to the mothers that we have discussed and the damage that they do, so also is the overly indulgent mother. The mother that does not ever see anything wrong in Johnny whatsoever. Her Johnny is perfect. Her Johnny could possibly not make any mistakes. Johnny is just fantastic, and Johnny is spoiled, and Johnny has everything he wants, and Johnny never gets punished, and Johnny gets rewarded for bad behavior. You can come and sleep in mommy's room today when he throws a tantrum. Johnny is accustomed to mother making him the center of her world, and this is something that many of us fall into, but this is a fantastic breeding ground for a narcissistic partner. This programming and this scripting in Johnny's mind that he is the center of the universe, and that, you know, the whole world spins and revolves around Johnny. You know, I've met some of these mothers when I was a teaching assistant and just running, because I did a lot of work as a teacher in schools. And I met these mothers who would go to war over poor Johnny or their children. Like, their children can do no wrong. If Johnny comes home and says, the teacher said boo, you know, she is not coming in to find out if the teacher said it, didn't say it, or what happened. She is coming to destroy that teacher, because surely my Johnny could not have done anything whatsoever to deserve it. This is the woman, this is the mother who, when her son breaks up with a woman, she doesn't say to him, darling, what did you do? Could you have said to her? Tell me the story. Maybe we can find out what you may have done wrong so that we can fix it. Or maybe we can get an idea of the situation. No, Johnny's mother is the mother that he can go to, and she says, these women are just no good out here on these streets. Johnny, get rid of absolutely all of them. You know, women are just terrible. They're terrible. They don't deserve my Johnny. My Johnny is the best Johnny ever. And so, you know, this does not sound like you're wounding, that there's a wound, but sometimes, and in most times, overindulgence, creating a mindset around Johnny that he could do no wrong, that he is perfect in every way, really creates a deep insecurity, because we all know as human beings that we can't possibly be perfect. So then we have to be perfect. And so Johnny begins to manifest this feeling of, I need to live up to these expectations. So either he has deep insecurity that manifests, because narcissists are deeply insecure people. So he now needs the woman in his world to live in the state of validation. You have to be his cheerleader. You have to approve of everything. You have to jump at the drop of a hat. You just have to be everything that Johnny needs to make it through the day. And this can be very difficult, and this can be very, very, very toxic. And so, you know, this is another mother wound that is not always evident or clear. These are some of the mother wounds that are very, very, very you will see a lot of them. You will experience, you know, you'll see a lot of this woundedness in different men, and this is the mother wound in the man. And how does this affect our femininity? In order for us to really help or to date men like this, we often find ourselves thrown into the masculine. We often find ourselves having to fix, having to prove. You know, you're gonna always feel this sense of prove energy, prove yourself to me energy, which is masculine energy. It's the masculine that proves, that acts, that is a champion. And so you will find that for the most part, you are constantly going to have to be in the masculine. You're constantly going to have to be the one fighting for the relationship. You're constantly going to have to be the one trying to be a different woman. You're constantly going to feel like you have to be a different woman from all the other women. You constantly feel like you have to prove. And so eventually it begins to erode your femininity. It begins to erode your feminine journey. But the issue here is, yes, walk away and find somebody who's done some work, but sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes there is a deeper spiritual connection, sometimes there's a deeper emotional connection, and sometimes there's just a compatibility on a very surface level that this person and you and the ways your lives are wired, you make a great team. And so sometimes it's not so easy to walk away. Sometimes we need to find a strategy. But in this instance, you need support. In this instance, you need to have the support of a coach, a therapist, a counselor. You need to lean in heavily to the support of such people. And I have clients like this who are in marriages with men who have these wounds and men who are not prepared to work on these wounds. And so they have to lean in very heavily on me to help them know how to respond when things come up and really regulate them emotionally. Because when a man is acting out of his wound, especially when it is triggered, he really loses ability to cherish his feminine. And so, you know, it's very difficult as well to try and address him when he is in that trigger zone. And so a lot of my clients who perhaps do not want to leave their marriages because, again, the finances make sense, the lifestyle makes sense for them, and it's a priority and a core need for them to be in a very safe, comfortable, luxurious lifestyle, they lean on my services, or they just love their partner. They genuinely have this deep connection to their partner, and it is good for the majority of the time, and that 51% is being met. And so they lean on myself and or therapists to really help them co-regulate within that relationship. For me, if you are going to maintain your femininity when you are dating a man with these wounds, or who is wounded in his masculinity in some way, shape, or form, it's a feat. It's like a feat to like climbing a mountain without, you know, a hammer, to whatever those things they do to knock the nail in so that they can hook. It's very difficult to try and hit that nail in with your hand and trying to be at a certain altitude, because there's so many dynamics and so many moments where it's just gonna flare up. And in that moment, you don't even know if this is a person that you even love or want to be around. And so at that time, you can either make a mountain out of a molehill, or you can get the assistance and the help that you need. And that's what we are here for you to do in the Black Swan Relationship Academy. And I would really rather sit down with you in a discovery call and really get to the nuts and bolts of this particular man's situation. I would love to be able to do that, so that I can give you a strategy, and maybe we can begin to do some work on the inside of you that will help you to fortify yourself. And of course, you're welcome to the Soulmate Attraction System course, which will help you really zone in on yourself and really do some self-care. I've got a few other courses coming up that are being written by some amazing people that will be in the academy. Self-care and emotional balance is going to be coming up, and it's going to be fantastic. I've already seen the profile of the work. It's going to be great. And my sister is actually doing it. She's fantastic at creating courses and really training. She's world class. So I'm so happy that she agreed to do this course for me. So do look out for that. And there will be other courses in the emotional healing section of the academy. But this is really very important to keep your mental and emotional health. If you cannot afford one-to-one coaching, or you don't have the time, or you feel not ready, there's so many courses in the academy for you to go and download. Emotional Mastery Masterclass, the Soulmate Attraction System course, and Nice Girl Rehab is also going to be up. And so you will have many opportunities to really flourish in your relationships, and how to navigate dating a man with the mother wound. Thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Thank you for joining the challenge. I will see you in the Facebook group Swan City, and I really look forward to seeing you on my next video. Thank you so much for your support. Love you lots. Goodbye now.